What is going on, guys? Thank you for joining me today on another Musket Fire live stream where we're going to keep covering training camp with the preseason game just around the corner. It's actually on Thursday. The Patriots are going to be one of the first teams to participate in preseason, which is exciting. They're taking on the Panthers at Gillette Stadium, and as of right now, it's expected to rain. So, not the greatest weather for the first preseason game. However, I guess it will be a good test for some of the younger players on the Patriots, maybe even some of the players that are not used to playing outdoors. So, that will be interesting. But as usual, before we get to the preseason game, we have training camp to talk about. So we have a lot of training camp stuff, a lot of rumors going on right now. And let's start off with the most talked about thing right now, which continues to be Matthew Judon. So the pass rusher returned to training camp today, which is the first time he has been seen in the facility on the field since last week when he abruptly left after having those animated conversations with Gerard Mayo, Matt Groh, and Elliot Wolf. And then there was a lot of rumors that came out about what exactly was being talked about, what this conversation could mean, what him leaving the field could mean. And because he hasn't been in the building for a week, none of those questions could be answered. The reporters were asking Mayo about it, but he's still learning to be a little bit more selective with the things that he is going to say to the media. So he only said that they did have a good conversation and he felt like things were in a better place. And that was it. There wasn't any more updates about a contract extension with him. There was no update about if he was going to be returning to practice anytime soon. So that didn't happen until today, and he was made available to the media after practice, which was quite a big deal because, again, hasn't been talked to in a week. And he wasn't his usual forthcoming self when he was talking to reporters. I actually just put up an article not too long ago, if you guys want to check it out, that he kind of took on a Bill Belichick side and was not really answering that many questions. So he was asked at one point, what did Mayo and Wolf say about practice, the one that he ended up leaving? He said, you talk to them. Then they asked again, do you feel like a contract is close? Judon said, you got to talk to them. Like I told y'all before, I will play myself, so we never talk about it. It's not up to me. He eventually also reiterated again that he would like to stay with the Patriots for the remainder of his career if it were up to him. And he's made that well known many times. But as he said, it's not up to him. And just based off of the vibe that he was giving and, the lack of real, details from Gerard Mayo, it kind of feels like there isn't going to be a contract extension coming, which then makes you wonder what the holdup is. Because when the Patriots went into this offseason, they had some of the most cap space to use in free agency. And although they didn't use it on outside free agents, they definitely used it on inside free agents. And that is why guys like Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry, Christian Barmore, Jelani Tavai, Ramondre Stevenson, is why all of these guys got extensions and or new contracts to keep them on the team. And they were quite hefty for the most part. Judon was expected to be a part of that group, if not the leader of that group. So the fact that we're heading into, second, third week of training camp and that's still not happening, it makes you think, are they not interested in getting this deal done? Is it because of his age? Is it because he's coming off an injury that ended his season last year? Or is it more of an issue with Judon? He is seeking a lot of money. He wants to be paid, top dollar, and the Patriots aren't willing to do that. That could be something, which is an aspect that a lot of people have discussed, because it feels like that would inevitably be the holdup. But we don't know. It's hard to say. And that is kind of what a lot of people are leaning toward at this moment, just because they haven't had an issue with other guys. So if Judon is asking for an egregious amount of money, then I guess it's understandable that they haven't paid him yet. But if you ask me, I would say that I think it's in their best interest to keep Judon on the team. He's been the most productive pass rusher, defensive player on the team since he signed in 2021. I mean, he's already in the top 10 of sacks in Patriots history, and he could go into the top 5 if they keep him this season or even next. So, I don't know how you not keep that type of production around. We saw how the defensive line did in his absence, which wasn't great until towards the end of the season. That's when Christian Barmore came alive. But you can't really feel comfortable going into the season hoping that that's what happens, especially if Judon's not there. So we'll have to stay up to date with that and pay attention to any of those clues that might come out over the next few weeks. It would be the most ideal for them to get this situation dealt with before, the regular season begins at least. But it's not looking too good at this point for that to be happening, which is unfortunate. So moving on to more big news out of Patriots training camp, which has been by far the reactions to Drake Maye and how he's been performing. And for the most part, I would say it's just over the top. It's overreacting. We are getting to the point where people are suggesting that Joe Milton is going to win the quarterback competition or that Drake Maye was a bust, blah, blah, blah. So ridiculous. I think that people have really high expectations of Maye, which makes sense because he is the third overall pick in the first round. He is the third quarterback that was taken. And from a lot of analysts going into the draft, they believe that he was either the best quarterback. Some even thought he was better than Caleb Williams. There are people who thought he was the second best quarterback beyond Caleb Williams. And the fact that he's not lighting it up on the practice field so far, people are worried that he's not going to be as good as what people thought. We have some people in the Boston media comparing him to Mac Jones, which is ridiculous. We have to put things into context, which is something that Albert Breer talks about in his new piece from today, where he says, Drake Maye has had rough moments, to be sure, but New England Patriots people attribute that to him working with the second team and how the team's offensive line depth issue has really been showing up with that group. So that is a context that people are lacking when they're really looking at evaluating how Maye has looked so far. They're not mentioning that they're, that he's not working with the top offense that is mostly going to Jacoby Brissett because they have said from the beginning that he was going to be the starter, so they're giving him the starter reps. Breer further goes on to say what's impressed his coaches most is how good of a processor he is on the field. He can go in his progression from 1 to 2 to 3 fast, and even threw a touchdown pass to his fourth read in the red zone drills the other day. He sees things right away, and his footwork has come a long way too. That said, to this point, Jacoby Brissett has been the best quarterback in camp. Again, that is not a surprise. That has been reported. Everybody assumed that he was going to be the starting quarterback. I would say, if your main concern is that you feel like Drake Maye should be further along at this point, then that, I guess, is a fair assessment. But as I said, things need to be taken into account, which is him working with the second team offense. The offensive line has been a problem all of camp. So, that's not going to help a rookie quarterback who is trying to learn the system. That is obviously going to favor a veteran guy like Jacoby Brissett, who has dealt with that plenty throughout his career. Not to mention, he has already previously worked with Alex Van Pelt, who is the offensive coordinator, while they were with the Browns. So that is also going to benefit Jacoby. So I think we just need to pump the brakes a little bit and wait and see how Drake Maye goes as training camp and preseason progresses. But also, you need to just embrace Maye potentially not starting this year, or at least maybe not starting until later in the season. I think a lot of people were expecting that he was going to be the starter right away. And if you're just going to have realistic expectations, then you should get that out of your head, because that might not be the case. And that is okay. It doesn't mean that Drake Maye is going to be a bad quarterback. It doesn't mean that he is a bad quarterback. It just means he's 21 years old and might need a little bit more time, instead of being thrown to the wolves and expected to be able to overcome the lack of a consistently protective offensive line, or maybe the receivers aren't playing that well. Well, it's better for them to hold off on Maye starting when they have better weapons for him to work with. And I think that's something that fans should embrace. That should be a good thing. We should want Maye to be put in a successful situation for him to thrive, rather than just throwing him out there for the sake of throwing him out there. Another hot topic, Brandon Aiyuk. So there's a lot of news has been going around about Brandon Aiyuk recently. Obviously, that ongoing contract situation with the 49ers continues as they head into training camp. We're in second or third week of training camp for most teams. And the current rumor right now from some of the lesser known people on social media right now is that Brandon Aiyuk is going to be traded today, and that the news will be coming out tonight. And the current rumor states Brandon Aiyuk is going to become a Pittsburgh Steeler. So with that news, I made sure to look on Twitter/X. I'm going to call it Twitter forever, asking Patriots fans if we should be upset if the Patriots fail to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, because we know they inquired about him before the draft, during the draft, and since the draft, and they allegedly offered their second-round pick in the 2024 draft for Brandon Aiyuk, to which the 49ers rejected their offer. And since they've been in contact with John Lynch since the draft, it seems like, okay, well, they're still interested in acquiring Aiyuk. But if the news is true that the Niners are going to ship Aiyuk to the Steelers, that means the Patriots failed, which is something that some people in Boston believe would be a huge failure for the Patriots. But as of right now, I posted this poll on my Twitter page 10 minutes before I went live. So it's been up for about 25 minutes or so. And 58% of people are saying that we should not be upset. I think that most people were not interested in seeing the Patriots give up some high draft capital, especially a second rounder, because the expectation for most people is that the Patriots are going to have high draft picks, because they're not expected to do very well during the 2024 season. So a lot of people were not wanting the Patriots to give up anything like that, because they feel like it's valuable. And to an extent, that is true. I don't think that the Patriots should have offered a first rounder, especially if they're going to be in the top 10 or top 5. That's a ridiculous price, in my opinion, for a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, no matter how good I think that he is. But I do think giving up a second rounder is not a bad idea. I think the bigger issue is they already miss out on Calvin Ridley. If Brandon Aiyuk is traded, that means that he's off the table. Justin Jefferson was a name that people talked about this offseason because he was looking for a new contract. Well, he got that. Amon-Ra St. Brown just got a new contract. AJ Brown just got a new contract. Like all of the receivers that are top in the game are not going to be available for trade next year. At this point, it looks like it would only be T. Higgins, as he and the Bengals have still not come to a solution to keep him beyond the 2024 season. And he is a guy that has kind of fallen down the ladder in regards to the desire of fans to see him in New England. So that doesn't mean that, Gerard Mayo and Elliott Wolf aren't necessarily interested in him, but he might end up going into free agency, which is going to make things a little bit difficult for the Patriots to try and attempt to sway him to them, other than they'll be jam-packed with cap space to pay him next year, but having to compete with every other team that's also looking to add a receiver of his caliber makes it a little bit tricky. So that would mean that the Patriots are going to have to rely on the draft for a receiver, which is what they did this year. And I think, at that point, it might not be a bad path to take, because that would mean Demario Douglas is in his third season. Javon Baker and Jalen Polk are going into their second season. Kendrick Bourne is going to be going into whatever season. He's obviously a seasoned veteran at this point. But you're still putting a lot of trust into a rookie to be that number one receiver that a lot of people think that the Patriots need. And that can be, it really depends, we've seen how many receivers, or any player really, that has come in and they were highly touted, they have not been that great. So it's really putting a lot of pressure on a young player to perform at a level that they might not be capable of. And so going the trade route for a wide receiver one seemed like the best scenario, not even just for their inevitable success with the Patriots, but also for Drake Maye, adding another veteran presence to his weaponry. And, that experience is going to help and elevate Maye even more. So they're going to have virtually no options next year for that. And so I think that's the main issue that I have regarding them not trading for a receiver, especially Aiyuk. So we'll see how that pans out. We'll see if that news is announced tonight. But yeah, let's move on to a couple other things. One is Christian Gonzalez is being mentored by a former Defensive Player of the Year and a Patriots fan favorite, which is Stephon Gilmore. So that is very exciting. Gilmore talked to ESPN over the weekend, and he talked about how he was immediately in contact with the Patriots once they drafted Gonzalez and let them know that they definitely got a good one. And he has established a mentorship relationship with Gonzo in this, the past year. And he said, I tell him all the time, I wish I would have known what I know now in year 5 or year 4. But if I can teach a guy like him in his second year, the sky is the limit for him. I see a lot of myself in him. The thing about playing corner is the mind game. If you get the mind right, I think he has all the ability to be whatever he wants to be. So I don't know if you can really think about any better player to be mentoring, the projected top cornerback of your team, but that is pretty fantastic. I think it's interesting because of Gilmore's potential connection back to the Patriots, because he's still a free agent, and we're heading into mid-May, and there's been a lot of rumors about him potentially returning to the Patriots in some capacity. So that would be pretty awesome. And the fact that he sees some of himself in him, while that might not be an admittance of, I think I'm great. Everybody knows what type of player Stephon Gilmore is. So the fact that he sees some of himself in him, that's pretty exciting. And hats off to Bill Belichick, because Gonzalez was one of the last draft picks that he made as the Patriots head coach and GM. So if he was able to get a potentially legendary player in Christian Gonzalez, then what a parting gift he left with the Patriots. And then the last little bit we're going to talk about today is the defense. The defense continues to thrive at training camp, and I'm sure most of you are not surprised. But it's pretty awesome. So the defensive line in particular was fantastic on Monday, and they were actually allowed to tackle to the ground. So it was very physical, which was reiterated by basically every beat reporter that was in attendance. They were all over the run game, which is something that they were focusing on today as well. So they were just stuffing the run, especially against the second unit. Juwan Bentley was a standout all day. People said that he was setting the tone for the defense, which is great, especially because of Christian Barmore being out. With the iffiness of Matthew Judon, we need another guy to step up, which is fantastic. And we've also seen Keon White kind of break out, which is a good move also, because even with Judon on the team and leading the pass rush, presumably leading the pass rush, he needs another guy to depend on. We haven't seen a guy step up and match his abilities, and Keon White has been showing that he can be that guy this year. And he's displaying his versatility. Like today, he was playing fullback, which is pretty crazy because the Patriots haven't really had a fullback. I mean, they had Jakob Johnson, but not really for a while. So Keon was able to use his tight end background again. And he was also doing really well on the defensive line in one-on-ones versus Mike Onwenu, which we know for the most part is the best offensive lineman on the Patriots team right now. So when he was asked about that, Keon said, "I challenge myself to go against him every day. That's kind of the guy I want to go against every day. A lot of times he gets the better of me, but I like that because that makes me better at the end of the day," which that is very true. You're going up against arguably the best offensive lineman on the team, and if you were able to get one over on him, then you know that you can do that with a bunch of the rest of the guys that you are going to be lining up against on game day. So I think that is a good move for them to be doing that in the one-on-ones. And he also was getting on ones over on Tavai, which he said that he was going to make sure he mentioned to Tavai when they spoke about practice later today. So I think, this is expected. The defense keeps thriving. The offense is the one that is continuing to be a problem, which, it's a little bit disappointing. But I also think, again, you have to temper your expectations. I think we all kind of knew that this was what was going to happen. And it's going to take some time for the offense to click. I mean, at this point, we still don't have definitive starters. Like, we're not really... They haven't adjusted to that yet because they're still in the evaluation phase. But I think that the team is going to be a little bit better than people think. I think the defense is going to be solid just as they were last year, but I think the offense might be better than what most people are saying. Do I think that they're going to be a top 10 scoring offense, or are they going to win 10 games? Probably not. But I also don't think that they are the worst offensive unit in the entire league. I think that they're going to prove the doubters wrong. And I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm excited about it. I think there should be a little bit more of excitement around the Patriots. I get that a rebuild isn't really that fun for anybody, but I try to embrace the situation that they're in and just take it for what it is. We were blessed for 20 years of absolute dominance. So if we have to be patient until we get back to that point, then I'm going to embrace every second of it. And I suggest you guys do too, if you can. I know it's not easy for most people to have that mindset the way that I do, but it's a lot more enjoyable to watch Patriots football when you don't think that they're, going to make the Super Bowl, or if they don't make the playoffs this year, they're a complete failure, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents for the day. This is a super short stream today. Not a lot of you guys tuned in today, so hopefully you guys will check it out next time. But we'll be back next week, maybe even after the preseason game on Thursday, so make sure you guys check in. But until then, I will see you guys next time, and go Pats. Bye guys.